And good afternoon, everyone, from St. Louis, Missouri, in the home of the Missouri Institute of Mental Health. I'm Tom Pansella with MIMH. Thank you for taking the time to join us this afternoon for our program on equine-assisted psychotherapy. I'll introduce our speaker to you in just a moment. I want to tell you a little bit about what you're seeing on the screen and some of the links that you'll see here as well and how you communicate with us. On the right side of the screen, if you ever have any questions during the program that you'd like to ask the speaker on your behalf, type those into that chat box. The first time you do it, you might have to enter a nickname. Shouldn't have to log in at all in that chat. Just type in next to the blue Say button. Click the Say button and we'll get your question at that point. Down a little lower on the video screen, underneath that transcription window, you're going to see a few links. If you'd like to purchase CEUs for today's program, it's only $15 a person. That link will stay active during and after the program. We'll also send it to you in a follow-up email along with some of those other links. You'll see a link to the speaker's slides that you can pop up as a PDF in case you want to follow those separately from the video. We'll be going back and forth through them in the main window, but you can do that as well if you like. You'll also see links to the Spring Training Institute. Linda's going to be one of our great speakers at the Spring Training Institute this year. We encourage you to sign up for that. Tuesday is going to be the early registration deadline. It's still $165 a person until Tuesday the 30th. After that, it goes up to $190 a person for the 2 days. Still a great value, so we hope you're going to be there. It's going to be a fantastic program. You're also going to see another link down there. This is something new, and this is kind of almost accidental. At the Missouri Institute of Mental Health, there's an awful lot of research that goes on here, and we're actually just about set to release what's called a review of therapeutic effects of human-animal interactions. Show it to you here. There's a link to sign up if you're interested in seeing this report, which is kind of a synthesis of where the state of the art is in the literature and in the research right now with human-animal interactions. And so I think this might be valuable to some of you as you're looking at setting up programs and in seeing how these programs are used in treatment. So I will now introduce to you Miss Linda Richards. And Linda graduated with her MSW from the University of Missouri-Columbia, and she spent more than 20 years working in the field of social work. She's worked with elderly, hospice, developmentally disabled, eating disorders, youth, juvenile, sex offenders, trauma victims, residential treatment. Currently, she's at Fort Leonard Wood, and she's working there as a clinical social worker, and she's treating primarily adolescents and their families. And for about the past 2 years, she's worked specifically with active duty soldiers returning from active deployment. She's also got a private practice, which is Horses Healing Hearts, LLC. There's a link to her website there below the video window, too. And there she utilizes equine-assisted psychotherapy for a variety of mental health problems. Coincidentally, that's what we're talking about today. So, Linda, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, hello, everyone. And let me just kind of give you a little background as to how this all came about. About 10 years ago or so, I was working in a residential treatment facility, and at that facility they did incorporate horses, but not necessarily in a true therapeutic sense. The horses were therapeutic, but they weren't doing psychotherapy with the horses. And so a friend of mine and I were looking more into what was out there that was more structured, and come to find out, found a professional organization that promoted equine-assisted psychotherapy. And from then on, it became my goal to have a private practice and utilize both sides of my passion for mental health and providing services as a clinical social worker, and my passion for horses. And so this is how this all came about and how I was ultimately able to create my own private practice utilizing this model. So let me kind of introduce you a little bit to some of the I guess, acronyms that you may see around. The first one that you would see if you're looking for equine-assisted psychotherapy may be EGALA. And what that stands for is Equine Assisted Growth and Learning Association. And it is the parent organization for professionals which provides training and certification in the field of equine assisted psychotherapy. It was established in 1999, so the friend of mine and I that I told you about, we actually stumbled across EGALA about 2 years after it was formed. EAP has been around a long time. It is just at that time that it became I guess, a formally supervised model of treatment. EGALA is committed to setting the standard of professional excellence. There is a code of ethics that they include. There are groups worldwide that provide EAP services. It is not just in the United States. I have a friend in Germany who is conducting EAP. I met her at a conference, and they are everywhere. Mexico, I think Australia, just as far reaching as you can think. There are programs out there. It's the largest, most established professional organization with about 3,500 members in 300 countries. And like I said, it provides a certification training program. This program consists of both the, if possible, both the mental health provider and the equine specialist to get certified, get the kind of training that we need in order to incorporate EAP. And I will go into that a little bit more here in a minute. So the EGALA model standards for equine assisted psychotherapy. It is considered a team facilitation approach, and what that means is that there will always be two people in the arena with the client and the horses. One is a mental health specialist, and the other one is an equine specialist. The mental health specialist is usually a licensed therapist, whether that is LCSW or LPC. And the equine specialist is someone who has extensive experience with horses. In my business, fortunately, both my partner and I have extensive history with horses, as well as being LCSWs. So the two of us get to take turns. If one day I feel like being more the equine specialist, and another day I would like to be the mental health specialist. So that kind of makes it nice. As far as why there needs to be a team, you have horse interaction going on with the people. It is always better to have two sets of eyes, one set of eyes on the person checking in on their interaction with the horse, and the equine specialist checking in on the interaction between the horse and the person. And that way, when we ultimately process what has happened in the arena, we can make those observations to the person as far as both having seen what was happening with the horse and what was happening with the person. It is 100% on the ground. There is no riding involved. This is usually confused with the traditional hippotherapy or therapeutic riding programs that you may see. In this case, it is ground-based. It is all about doing the therapy in the arena with hands-on experiences and hands-on activities with the horses. It is not focused on the physical therapy side of it. It is a solution-focused model, so when someone presents with a problem to us, we then try to develop challenges for them, activities that incorporate the horses in those activities to come up with a solution, rather than the therapist being the one providing the solution. And as I mentioned before, it has the EGALA model does also include a code of ethics. So what really is EAP, or equine assisted psychotherapy? Basically, what we do is we take the classical model of working in an office and doing therapy, and we take it into the arena. We are able to incorporate the horses doing these exercises, being able to basically do the same kind of work that we would do in the office, whether it is addressing anger or behavioral problems, anxiety, depression. These are all areas that can be addressed in the arena. The interactions exist with the horses and the professional team, the mental health professional or specialist and the equine specialist. Activities are hands-on. There are no lectures or long conversations, and this is where for those of us who are the therapists, it can be challenging, because sometimes when we are sitting in the office, we find that we're interacting more with the client and talking more with the client, trying to find a solution with the client, but most of the time the client expects us to come up with the answers or to guide them in the direction of solving their problems. And with EAP, it is really more the client themselves finding some insight through the activities with the horses and being able to incorporate that themselves rather than depending on someone else to come up with the answers. The insights and changes in behavior don't necessarily occur by talking, but rather through the interaction with the horses. So again, as the mental health specialist and the equine specialist, we will stand aside and let the activity happen. Let the person work through whatever problem, whatever issue it may be that they're trying to address, and utilizing the horses as the co-therapists for that. So why the horse? There are so many different therapy programs out there utilizing dogs and even guinea pigs, and I think someone had even told me they were using cats. I think that would be interesting. But why the horses? Horses have a way of reading people's body language and actions and can provide feedback to that. So, for example, if someone comes in, maybe comes in, standing like this and is resistant to the process, the horse is going to feel that and sense that. And most likely, maybe not. It depends on the horse, but I know in my horses, if someone presents like that, very closed and resistant, my horses aren't going to want to approach that person. So, horses read the body language, provide feedback. This is something that we can use when we process later on with the person and saying, why do you think that the horse didn't want to approach you when you were trying to get this activity done? Why do you think it was so hard for you to be able to approach the horse? And let that person find that insight as to, well, it's, maybe it's because I just really didn't want to do this. And so hopefully that's what we would get to, is that person to realize that their own actions created that. And then in turn, we would say, okay, so what other situations do you think, have you behaved like that, or have you expressed yourself in that way and people didn't approach you? So that's kind of how it is incorporated as far as the body language is concerned. The horses confront the behavior and the attitudes. They're not going to put up with anything from anybody, whether that is moving away from a potentially dangerous situation because a child is being very hyperactive, running around. Horses are probably not going to put up with that. As well as responding to someone who may be sad, and a lot of times the horses will be in tune with that as well, and may come over and comfort the person. And they act as a metaphor for relationships. So as you see on the slide here, it's kind of an introduction to my critters. You see a donkey and a paint. There's that sorrel there, and then sticking out behind there is my little pony. So I have all these different sizes and personalities that I work with, and so very easily they can be metaphorically identified as a family unit if I were to decide to use them as such. I could use them as parents with their children, or a wife and her husband, or whichever way we might want to try and have that activity go. Okay. Well, let me go back to the last slide, actually. I want to say one more thing. This particular activity here is an activity that I did during a demonstration. And just to kind of give you an example of what you're looking at here, is that the activity was for the folks in the demonstration to catch the horses and just bring them to the center of the arena. This young gentleman here with his back to you is actually a friend of the family. He has been out to our farm, he has hunted on our farm, and he's familiar with the horses. Has been around them all the time, and he came because he's heard me talk about it, his mom's heard me talk about it, and they came for support, and so he wanted to participate in the demonstration as well. At the beginning of this exercise, all they were asked to do is to catch the horses and bring them back together again. At one point, this young man ended up standing in the middle of the arena just looking lost because none of the horses allowed anyone to approach them. It was a fairly large group of people. I think there were maybe 7 folks in the arena, and the horses just wouldn't have anything to do with it. And so here's this young man who is used to the horses, and the horses should be used to him, but for some reason that day it was just not going to happen. And so ultimately, after much trying and changing the way that they were approaching the situation, he was actually able to catch a couple of the horses. But he had to change his technique. Whereas he had always done the same technique at our house if we asked him to help catch the horses or move them or something. In this case, he had to change the way he was going to catch them. So it involved problem solving, trying to figure out how to think outside the box for this particular activity. This was very frustrating for him when we processed later on with the crowd. He said that because he's a star athlete and he's usually in control and he usually gets things done. He knew these horses. He felt like he knew what the outcome was going to be, and it was different. And it was really challenging for him to accept that he doesn't always have control over everything in his life. So that kind of just gives you an idea of what this picture was all about. But really the best way that someone can really learn about EAP is through actually witnessing it. This is why we've done demonstrations before for folks in the community, but unfortunately I cannot bring a horse into this room. So what I did instead is I've got a really small clip that I would like to share with you, a video clip. This is a clip that was done at an EGALA conference. We usually spend one day in the arena observing or participating in some sort of an activity for us to learn other things that we can incorporate in our own practices. And so you will be seeing 2 folks who are going to be the equine specialist and the mental health specialist. And they have asked one of the people in the audience to come and provide a challenge that she is dealing with. And they're going to work with her to try and figure out a way to overcome that challenge. Now, all you're going to be able to see, due to the matter of time, is about 7, maybe 8 minutes or so of this video. There's a lot more to it, and I'll be showing a bigger clip at the MIMH conference. But this will just kind of give you a taste of what it's like. One, to be the clinician and how the clinician works, but also how the person then can interact with the horses.
We're going to start right off with just, Mark, we've had a client call us that wants to be involved in our services. Basically, she said that she's been kind of struggling with, she's a new mom. Her baby is almost 2 years old now. And it's just the whole kind of, she needs to work, she wants to work, but then she also has the demands of her baby at home, and she's really struggling with that whole balance of giving time for her child and giving time for work, and that balance. So that's what she's wanting to work on through therapy.
Are there any other things that are coming up for, like struggles, or is it just primarily work, balancing baby, new mom kind of thing?
That's all that she mentioned to us on the phone.
Okay.
For now, so that's about all I know right now.
All right.
She is a mental health professional herself, so I
Okay.
do know that much. So, and she has done some of this work already as well.
Okay.
So she's familiar with doing equine-assisted psychotherapy.
Okay.
So, so any thoughts about what we might want to do to when she shows up today?
Well, since she definitely has some ideas of things she wants to work on, what do you think about going directly into kind of some metaphor stuff rather than just an assessment?
Okay. All right. So, so we have 3 horses, and I like this because she's balancing baby, work, and maybe, I don't know what the third one might be for her, but that kind of gives us maybe some potential parallels to her life. So I'm thinking, let's do something that involves all three. So,
well, why don't we just go ahead and have her to just observe the horses and maybe look at which horse represents something that she's struggling with, and with the balance thing, then after she does that, chooses or names the horses, have her to place those horses somewhere that she feels that it'll be balanced in the arena.
maybe we won't put in balance yet.
Okay.
We won't say that word yet. Let's
All
see
right.
what
just
comes up.
Place them
Yeah.
in the arena somewhere that she would like.
Yeah, let's just do that.
Okay.
Okay. So our client is showing up now, so she didn't hear all that, technically. Yeah, come on. Oh, yeah. Come on in, Darcy.
Hi, Darcy.
I don't think it's on yet. It's
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm just wanted to come in today because having a hard time having to go to work and leaving my son behind. Even this morning he cried when I left him with his grandma. So it's hard for me to get away and not feel really guilty about going to work. And you know, sometimes my husband will call me at work and I can hear his voice on the phone. I feel really bad. But, I mean, I feel like on the one hand, you know, we have a certain lifestyle that we live, and I want to provide everything I can for my son, but then I'm not there. So it's been kind of hard for me.
Okay. So you're just wanting to kind of work through some solutions on how to balance being there for your son as well as being able to go to work and provide for the family and things like that?
Because, I mean, I'm not even sure if I should be working. Maybe I shouldn't be, and I can't tell.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome. We know that you are familiar with this work, so you've done some of it yourself.
My horses aren't that big.
Well, that's interesting. You mentioned that they're big because it sounded like you were talking about some pretty big things going on in your life.
Yeah.
So we're wondering if, by chance, if you would like just to take some moments here to look at these big horses and maybe see if any of them might remind you of some of these different things you're trying to work through?
Well, I have to say that one reminds me of my job.
Which one?
Which one was that, Darcy?
The sorrel one.
That's sticking his butt into the others?
Yeah, that's definitely my job, and I'm
job.
still me. Kind of keeps backing into me and being really stressful, and
Okay, so that's your job right there. That backs into you.
that's probably more like me, just running around and running around and running around, and
I noticed
I don't
as
know.
you said running around, you kind of did this with your hand as far as like circles or something.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
yeah,
Oh.
see, there I go again. The job's driving me nuts.
Which direction is he running in relationship to your job? Are you running, I should say?
Definitely away, but I keep going back every day.
Okay.
And then this very, very tall horse, I'm not sure. It seems like that, even though he's really tall, he's more appealing to me. He just seems more calm. It would be like being at home, I think. Kind of being at home and when it's more calm there.
So we have job, we have Darcy, and then we have home. Right.
So we have Darcy and Darcy at home. Is that what you were saying, Darcy?
Well, I don't think that's me at home necessarily. That's just home in general.
Okay, just home.
So,
Okay.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
The way I see it.
So that's more calm is what you were saying.
See how work just continues to pester me and my family? Hi, me. Oh, work.
So work just came up to you.
Sometimes I really like my job. It's very rewarding. It can be very frustrating at times, but I really do like my job.
It looks like that your job is kind of doing something to you and your family right now.
Splitting them up, it works right in the middle. And the other thing is that horse had its head away, so it's like, work doesn't really care about me or my home. Not really paying attention to that.
Okay, so that's all I have on the slides. But there's a couple other things that I wanted to point out. So as you have been able to see now in action how the metaphors are applied in the session, not only did she identify 3 areas that are challenging for her, but the horses, not trained, were just being themselves, but in effect were actually able to demonstrate how she was feeling about these 3 different areas in her life. And that's what is so fun about working with EAP, is that we don't always know how our horses are going to react to a certain situation and what they're going to do. So as far as being the mental health specialist or even the equine specialist, we kind of have to think on our feet a lot because we just don't know what our horses are going to present us with and how we can use that with the client. With that said, I think I just mentioned that the horses aren't trained. These horses usually come directly from the pasture. As far as my program is concerned, I don't bring them in and have them look pretty and pristine. I want my horses to be able to be themselves. I want them to be able to express themselves whichever way they are most comfortable in expressing themselves. And if that means that they come in, it's been a rainy day the day before, and so today they are extremely muddy from all the mess, then that's how they're going to present. But when you really think about it, that's kind of life. We have to, as people, sometimes we have to do what we have to do, muddle through, but try to still be ourselves and try to find who we really are on the inside. We can dress up and we can look pretty, but we're still going to be the same person on the inside. So why have the horses get all gussied up when all we really want from them is the interaction and the work in the arena as a therapeutic tool. So the horses are not trained. And so in this case, they weren't trained, but, of course it was funny that the one horse was backing into everybody else. And those are the neat things that'll happen. As a mental health specialist and as an equine specialist, it is then our job to reflect back to the person what our observations are. We are not supposed to analyze in any way or make assumptions as to what might be happening. It is more of making observations. We as therapists have to go through an unlearning process, and that we have to realize that this is not in the office sitting there and trying to solve a problem for a person. This is, in fact, the person trying to make that solution for themselves. Also, another thing that I wanted to bring up too is that through EGALA, we're able to network all over. As I'd mentioned before, there's a number of programs everywhere. And what makes it really nice is that we're able to network with each other and provide input as to whatever activities we may want to use in our arena with everybody else. And so it's not necessarily a competitive program. There are more programs even here in Missouri. I believe there may be one here in St. Louis. I can't remember the name. There's also a program in Kansas City, and we've worked together a couple of times in making sure to get the word out about EAP. So if you are interested and you want to look it up, you just look up equine assisted psychotherapy or EGALA, and you will find the information about the programs that will be in your area. And I think one last thing that I also wanted to mention is that people always ask, what are the benefits? Sure, so you get a person in with the horses. The person uses metaphors and kind of identifies things, but really what does that do for the person, and why use the horses? For people, this is a way of building a number of strengths. A person can develop self-esteem. They can become a more or using self-efficacy. They can build trust, whether it is within themselves or with their family, the other relationships that they may be in. So we're looking at trust, we're looking at relationship building, we're looking at building communication with others and enhancing that communication. Being able to complete something that maybe you thought you couldn't complete before. Being challenged with something that's taken out of the office, and you have to deal with it hands-on. You have to come up with that solution to the problem. I was doing one demonstration, another demonstration that included an active duty soldier. And it was a very similar situation in that because we just wanted to introduce the program, we just asked the participants to again catch the horses. And again, the horses were uncooperative, same batch, and they were running around in circles around the participants. And at the end of that activity, they were able to eventually catch the horses and settle down. But as we were processing out afterwards, what was this experience like for you? Have you ever felt like this at any other time? The active soldier said that it reminded him a lot of when he was deployed and going through the streets in his caravan and having to be hypervigilant, making sure that there are no snipers or there are no other dangers in the area for he and his team. And this was a situation that made him feel like he needed to do the same for his team because the horses were running around at a rather high speed around the arena. But then what was incredible, what he said after that, was that, but being in this arena, I realized that I'm not there. I am here. I am at home. And I am safe. And so for him, that was a really big, well, it was progress in his treatment because he was actually seeing somebody else who had suggested he join the demonstration. So this was really big for him. So this is the kind of thing that we're looking at, and it is usually brief. It's considered brief therapy because of that kind of insight that a person can achieve within such a short period of time.
Ready for questions?
Sure.
We did get a couple of them. This seems like it would be an expensive therapy model to maintain as a modality. How is it a cost-effective treatment model?
Oh boy, that's a great question. I think it all depends on the provider and how much they want to charge. I have seen anywhere from $80 an hour upwards to $150 an hour for something like this. We being in central Missouri don't charge that much because we just know that people can't afford that. Insurance does cover EAP. EAP is considered a treatment modality. So when someone bills for it with the insurance, basically what they're doing is they're billing for individual therapy, group therapy, that sort of thing. They don't have to be specific, just like if we were to utilize art therapy in our office or play therapy. It's not something that we would put in our billing information. We just say individual therapy. So insurance does cover it. As far as the operating cost, I'm fortunate to have my own horses. And I'm fortunate to have the local saddle club who is willing to let me utilize their arena for next to nothing. And so I'm very grateful to them for doing that for me. So for me, the cost isn't that great because I'm already incurring that cost just owning the horses. But for other programs, if you then have stables and whatnot, that's obviously something that you need to look into when you're trying to start that kind of a program and what you would need to charge in order to come out ahead.
What are some of the barriers that you encounter getting people to work in this treatment arena?
Fear. I have an answer. I just want to make sure. I want to know if I want to use that answer. The reason I say fear is because a lot of people are concerned about the safety. They worry that somebody's going to get hurt in the arena. And what happens if somebody gets hurt, and what is the liability, and who's going to be sued over this. One thing is right. There are always possibilities of somebody getting hurt. Sure, you're dealing with horses. We pick horses that we know traditionally do not have bad habits. So not to say that that particular day there's something going on and the horse all of a sudden does something that is unusual to them. I have not had that happen to me. My horses, I can read my horses pretty well, and know that there might be some kind of a safety issue that is about to happen. And then it is my job or my partner's job, if she witnesses it as well, to intervene and provide a safe environment for the client. So that's where the fear comes in. A lot of people are afraid of that safety issue. The other challenge that I've had is that people are more likely to look at this as playing with the horses. And that's how I came up with the title, Not Just Horsing Around. They just feel like, all I'm going to do is go into the arena and have the person, brush and pet the horse. And sure, I might just do that. But there's a therapeutic basis to it. And we're going to talk about with the client what it was like for them to have that kind of closeness and that kind of connection with the horse. It is not just, people going in and just doing whatever or going horseback riding for the fun of it. So people don't quite understand the concept behind using equine assisted psychotherapy as a model that goes from the couch to the arena. And I think those are probably the biggest challenges that I've encountered so far. Is just basically trying to help people understand and the safety issue, and reassuring people that for the most part I can 98% of the time guarantee their safety. If somebody has their foot stepped on, it's going to happen. But most of the time, we avoid incidents as much as we can.
Another question. What is the statistical effectiveness of EAP?
That I don't have an answer to. And the reason I don't have an answer to that is because research for EAP is in its infancy. There is research out there. I'm not one to be able to pull numbers out of my head, but if you go to the EGALA website, I believe they do have a reference page there that has a number of articles and research papers posted about EAP. Unfortunately, because EGALA is relatively new as far as an organization is concerned, it hasn't been until it was formed that the importance of research was determined. And so since the formation of EGALA, they have started working at getting the research out there and getting the information. But a lot of it needs to be kind of longitudinal studies sort of a thing. We need to follow somebody from the beginning to the end and afterwards to make sure that everything is still going well for them. A lot of people weren't doing that before, and we're now recognizing that research is really what drives a lot of people. That is actually one of the other challenges. If I don't have research to back up what I'm saying, how can I say that it's effective? And that's why I use a video, or I tell stories of the situations that I've encountered to show how effective it can be. But by all means, there is research, but I can't give you a specific number for that.
Are you familiar with an organization called PATH, P-A-T-H, and what their distinction is from EGALA?
I think that used to be, I think they changed their name, if it's who I think it is. And I think it's the organization that was for the equine therapy, the more the physical therapy side of it. And I think they, like in the last year or something, changed their name. It used to be I don't remember. But there used to be the organization that supervised the physical therapy, equine therapy, riding therapy programs. And I heard from somebody that either they joined with or something changed, and I think that was PATH.
We got assistance from somebody here. It looks like NARHA may have been the previous name.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Okay, someone says that she does not have a degree in social work, but a member of her family does, and she then is the horse person.
Yep.
Barrel racing for many years, training horses and such. What would be the best way to start a program?
The best way to start a program would be to probably hook up with EGALA and go through their training. The reason I say that is because even though we can probably come up with something on our own without the assistance of EGALA and kind of, from examples and whatnot, work through it. The workshops, the training, the certification program that EGALA provides is amazing. And you are put in the arena. It's not that you're observing. You are in the arena both as the client and as the facilitator. So you learn both sides of it and you see how effective it can be on either way. They have a part 1 and a part 2 training. Only one person of the team has to be certified, not both of them. So once you get that certification, then it'll be much easier for you to network and get the word out, because now you're considered an actual entity that is governed by a professional organization. From there, it's networking. It is calling people. It is emailing people, whoever you know, getting a website going, Facebook. EGALA also has like a business plan, kind of a book that you can buy that kind of gives you a step-by-step. Here's some of the things that you need to consider as far as a budget and treatment plans and those sorts of things. So that would be a really good way to get started. Just go to their site and it'll give you information about their trainings and anything else that you may need to know about the certification aspect as far as what your experience is.
And you mentioned previously that this is not a very competitive group of people.
Right. We're very supportive. I've been in the field for a long time, and I've experienced where there gets to be the little competitiveness amongst clinicians in a community because maybe somebody's honing in on somebody's territory. And really, with EGALA, I've not experienced that. I'm right now working with a group up in Kansas City. They're awesome people. We've had a great time so far working together. But it's a networking process. So we get together, we learn from each other, and we're able to promote EAP as a group rather than just as an individual here and there, across the state or across the country.
All right. Well, any final words of encouragement for our folks out there?
No. My suggestion would be if you're in an area and you find a flyer somewhere that says, hey, there's a free demo for EAP, please see if you can attend, because really that is the best way to learn about this program.
And, of course, if you're anywhere near Missouri towards the end of May and you want to meet Linda in person at the Spring Training Institute, be sure and sign up for that program. How's that for a segue for a plug to that? And because folks were talking about research and whatnot, I'll plug again the literature review that the Missouri Institute of Mental Health is almost complete with putting together. It'll be released both as a perfect bound book and as an ebook, and there is a link below the video window, and it'll be sent to you in a follow-up email as well. That will put you on our list if you like to be notified when it becomes available. It doesn't obligate you to anything, but it'll let us know that you're interested in knowing more about this as it becomes available. So again, if you're interested in purchasing CEUs, that link's below the video window there, and will also be sent in the follow-up email. All the spring training information will be there as well. Stay tuned to our website for other upcoming programs. There's a couple of very interesting topics that are coming up here in the next couple of weeks that'll be posted up there pretty soon. So we thank you for your time in joining us this afternoon. And Linda, as always, thank you for your time.
Thank you.